You know that person who never posts anything? Maybe it's your friend. Maybe it's you. While everyone else is uploading sunsets, coffee cups, and carefully chosen moments, they're just living. No captions, no filters, no proof. And from the outside, it can look like they're missing out. But there's a quiet possibility most people don't consider. What if they've already figured something out? Think about it for a second. When was the last time you posted on social media? And more importantly, when was the last time you almost posted but didn't? That pause matters because in that small gap between opening the app and deciding not to share, your mind runs a fast, silent test. Will this be liked? Does this make me look interesting enough? Does my life look good compared to everyone else's? That moment is revealing. It shows how quickly sharing turns into performing. A sociologist named Irving Goffman once described human life as a series of performances. We present different versions of ourselves depending on who's watching. Social media didn't invent that idea, it just took the stage and made it permanent. One post doesn't disappear after the moment passes, it stays. It can be judged later, out of context, by people you don't even know anymore. So when someone chooses not to post, they're not being boring. They're opting out of the performance entirely. Research shows that a large portion of social media users never post at all. They scroll, observe, and stay quiet. They're often labeled lurkers, which sounds strange, almost suspicious. But psychology paints a different picture. Studies suggest that when the pressure to be seen mixes with fear of judgment and constant comparison, people feel drained, anxious, mentally tired, so their brain makes a decision for them. Don't perform, just watch. And that's not a weakness, that's protection. Because comparison is powerful. Even when you know what you're seeing is curated, your brain still reacts. You see promotions, engagements, perfect trips, smiling faces, and your subconscious doesn't care if it's staged. It just registers one thing: they're ahead and I'm behind. Over time, that quiet comparison chips away at your sense of control. Psychology has a concept called self-determination theory. It says people feel healthiest when they believe their choices come from within, not from pressure or reward. Social media flips that completely. It turns attention into currency, likes into approval, silence into something suspicious. People who don't post are often protecting their autonomy. Their confidence doesn't depend on reactions. Their sense of worth doesn't rise and fall with engagement. They stay connected in ways that don't require constant proof. Think about someone you know who rarely posts. When you see them in real life, are they disconnected or unhappy? Usually not. They're often present, grounded, comfortable in themselves. They experience moments instead of documenting them. And here's something most people miss. Even scrolling without posting can be mentally taxing. Studies show that passive browsing still increases comparison and emotional strain. Some people sense this intuitively. They know the game is tilted. Everyone controls the angle, the timing, the story. So they step back, not because they can't play, but because they don't want to. That's why many quiet people gravitate toward platforms that don't demand performance. Long videos, podcasts, books, places where you can listen, learn, and think without being seen. No one questions your silence, no one tracks your absence. You're allowed to exist without explaining yourself. There's another pattern here too. People who avoid posting often have fewer connections, but deeper ones. They'd rather have a handful of real conversations than 1,000 surface-level reactions. And research supports this. Close relationships predict happiness far more reliably than popularity ever has. What's interesting is that these quiet observers are usually very aware. They notice shifts in tone, gaps in posting, the difference between what someone shows and what they're probably feeling. They aren't disengaged, they're attentive. They choose understanding over broadcasting. Psychologists describe two types of self-awareness. One is focused outward, how am I seen? The other is focused inward, how do I feel? People who don't post tend to live in the second space. They ask, Is this meaningful to me? Not, is this impressive to others? That kind of awareness creates depth, reflection, emotional intelligence. And here's the part that gets misunderstood.
Not posting isn't hiding. It's choosing privacy. It's deciding that some moments lose their meaning when they're turned into content. That a sunset can be better when you don't frame it. That a conversation can feel richer when you're not thinking about how to explain it later. Research even shows that people who post less often report more stable self-esteem. Their mood isn't tied to feedback. They're playing a longer, quieter game. Social media promised connection, expression, belonging, but it also created a world where silence feels strange, where constant visibility feels normal. The people who step back aren't rejecting connections, they're rejecting the rules. They'll connect, but on their own terms, in real time, without the show. So maybe the people who don't post aren't missing out. Maybe they understood something early, that a life doesn't need an audience to be real, that presence is more valuable than proof, and that self-respect sometimes looks like silence. Because when life is over, no one wishes they'd posted more, but many wish they'd lived more. The quiet ones aren't hiding, they're just living where the cameras can't reach.